Hello friends, my name's TheRealEmile. The Ford Mustang is a true motoring icon. Even people who aren't into cars will recognise that name. Now it's the Mustang's 50th anniversary this year and there's lots to celebrate. The first generation Mustang was one of the most successful Fords of all time, despite the car's tricky development, such as the heavy reuse of parts from other Ford models such as the Falcon and Fairline. People adored the Mustang. Within the first 18 months, 1 million Mustangs had been built, and it kick-started America's decade-long love affair with the muscle car, with rivals seemingly popping out from everywhere, with the like of Dodge and Pontiac quick to jump on this bandwagon. However, the Mustang's history isn't all happy. In 1974, the Mustang II arrived and was being based around the idea of a smaller and more fuel-efficient car, based on the Pinto. The Mustang II was, well, awful, and while it sold well, the Mustang II has a horrendous reputation, even to this day, and for good reason. For example, the most powerful model available had 180 horsepower, which was less than the base model original Mustang. The third generation wasn't the best either, turning the Mustang into a slightly boring mid-sized coupe which didn't hold up to its European and Japanese rivals, rather than the snarly muscle car it once was. However, I am pleased to report the Mustangs came back, with the 4th generation Mustang showing us the cars may still have some life in them, provided you kick them a little bit. The 5th generation brought us a whole new body style, harkening back to the iconic 1st gen models. These cars both had the grunt and appearance to suggest that they really meant business. When Mr. Shelby stepped in to produce the fantastically good looking GT500, complete with a massive supercharger and some 500 horsepower, it was clear the muscle cars were back in their stride, and were back for good. After 10 years of the fantastic 5th generation, Ford decided that a complete redesign was in order. Don't fear, however, as this car is not another Mustang II, despite this car having a more generic Ford look and now being available for the European market. The Mustang 6 is available with 3 engines, a fantastic 2.3 litre EcoBoost producing 310 horsepower, a not so great V6 with 300 horsepower, and of course a V8 with 5 litres and 435 horsepower as we have here today. Me personally, I quite like the look of the car, although I think I preferred the older style Mustang, the 5th generation. It just seemed a bit more Mustang-y. This new model, while yes it looks very nice and has a more generic-y Ford style to it, I'm not sure if it's worked as well as it had on, say, the Fiesta and Focus. But the real question, however, is what this car's like to drive, and well, the Mustang 6 just isn't quite up to scratch. Being a powerful muscle car, you wouldn't expect it to handle like a Lotus, but with its new modern look and the fact it's now sold in Europe, I was expecting it to be a fairly decent car, trumping most of the other American muscle cars. However, it really doesn't. The issue arises with the brakes and the suspension, both of which feel like they came from the 80s. The brakes are not brilliant. In fact, they're not very good at all. They don't get it stopped particularly quick, so you have to brake much earlier than usual. However, they are fairly difficult to get used to. Now, normally with brakes, if they're bad, they're relatively easy to get used to. However, on this car, it's a little bit different. If you brake here at Laguna 50 meters earlier than usual, you'll brake too early. If you brake at a normal spot, you'll overshoot and go off the track. Next problem is suspension. This car is fairly wallowy. However, it's not to the extent of the, say, C4 Corvette. However, it seems like the car jiggles and changes direction when going in a straight line, making for a very odd driving situation. Straight line speed, well, it's pretty good. What do you expect? It's a powerful muscle car. And I'm also happy to say this car is actually quite grippy. The tyres, while they do occasionally feel a little bit icy, do grip pretty well. While once again it's not a Lotus, compared to say the 2013 GT500 is a big improvement. Uprate the brakes and suspensions and you could improve this car, but there's still much better track cars out there. Also, this car costs 50,000 credits, and while yes, for a B-class car that isn't half bad, this car's a fairly low B-class car, and for just an extra 1,000 credits you can have a Camaro ZL1, which is a much nicer car to drive, and it is of a much higher PI. Anyways, we couldn't just leave it at that, so I figured I would take this car around the Top Gear test track. Now, as far as muscle cars around here before, we haven't had too many. We've had a Camaro ZL1, which was very quick. We had the Shelby GT500, which was a much lower class than this. So there's nothing we can really compare this to. If it goes faster than the TTRS, I believe that's a 123.9, then that'll be a pretty good achievement in of itself. Yeah, the Mustang was okay round here. I did manage to get used to the brakes round here, which was good, but of course, you know, that's with me driving the car for a pretty long time. Yeah, the Mustang was okay around here. The brakes were terrible compared to everything else here. You know, sort of the sports cars and stuff, but it is a muscle car after all, so what do you expect? Coming out of Hammerhead, it was pretty good. No real sliding or anything to report. Follow through. Now, I could not take any speed through here. Usually the cars will do 90 or so through there. I had to do about 85 in this. Otherwise the car would understeer off. That's another thing I actually forgot to mention. This car has quite a lot of understeer as well. Very muscle car-y in that respect. Second to last corner was alright in this car, and last corner, no real drama. I also figured, while it's here, we may as well throw it round. We have the Shelby GT500. Now, we've had the 07 model go around before. We've never had the 2013 model go around. This car's pretty scary. It has 663 horsepower. It also weighs a ridiculous amount. Unfortunately, I haven't got the sums up on the screen. I just ran out of time. So, yeah, that's why they're not on the screen. But anyway, the GT500 was a very scary car. This is a muscle car. That's definitely what it feels like to drive. It's more scary than the Challenger, mostly because this is more unpredictable than the Challenger. This car has two modes. You have wild oversteer, or you have tremendous understeer. As you can see there, Hammerhead was not fun in this, and as soon as you put the power down, that would happen. Now, luckily on this lap I managed to actually tame it quite a lot. I think I just basically let go on the throttle for that. Through Hammerhead, this actually took more speed than the 2015, which was interesting. And through there, very slidey, very scary. I will admit, this second to last corner was absolutely terrifying. I had to redo this so much just because you could see the understeer. It was a ludicrous amount of understeer. And round the final corner, and there we go, very safely across the line. Anyway, the GT500 went into 34th with 122.173, which is faster than a ZR1 Corvette, but slower than the Camaro ZL1. And the 2015 went in with a 123.215, narrowly beating an Aston Martin DBS and a Dodge Challenger. Not quite as fast as an Audi RS4. So there you go, the GT500 2013 was the fastest car around the track, and I have to say this is the car I would buy. The 2015 Mustang just doesn't really cut it for me. It doesn't quite drive how it should, and it's just not a good vehicle all in all. Quick thing to note about the GT500, it did do a 121.680, but it went off track, so I didn't count that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think this is going to be the last review I do for Forza 5, just because it's taken ages to get around to finally doing this. Unless I think of something really good to do, but hopefully these should continue into Forza 6, so tell me if you like them down in the comments below. And I want to thank you all very much for watching. My name's been TheRealEmile, and until next time, farewell.